I still remember the exact day I realized I was invisible in my own house. It wasn't a huge fight or a dramatic moment. It was something small. But it hit me like a punch. I came home after a long day and my mom was standing in the hallway, smiling proudly as she showed my brother his new room. The best room in the house. The one I had been asking for since we were kids. I just stood there, confused because no one had even mentioned this change to me. No discussion. No warning. Not even a question. When I asked my dad why they didn't tell me, he didn't even look up from his phone. He just said, "You didn't need it. Your brother deserves it more." And that sentence, it burned. In that moment, everything became clear. I wasn't the favorite. I wasn't even considered. I walked back to my small, crowded room and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. I felt anger. I felt hurt. But above all, I felt done. What they didn't know was that I was about to pull a move that would flip the entire house upside down. Growing up in my house felt like living in a story where everyone already knew the hero. And it definitely wasn't me. My brother was the shining star, the favorite, the one who could do no wrong. If he brought home average grades, my parents called him brilliant. If he messed up, they said, "It's okay, he tried." And if he wanted something, somehow it always appeared. And then there was me. The responsible one. The quiet one. The one they relied on but never really saw. Every morning the same routine played out. The dishes. The trash. Helping dad with errands. Me again. And if my brother even folded one shirt, everyone acted like he climbed a mountain. I didn't complain. Not because I liked being the extra pair of hands, but because complaining never made a difference. Decisions in our house always revolved around him. What he wanted to eat. Where he wanted to go. What he felt like doing. Even the TV remote was basically glued to his hand. Once I suggested watching a movie I liked. My mom said, "Let your brother choose, he had a long day." As if my days were always effortless. Small things added up. Bigger things hurt even more. Birthdays, holidays, family plans. Everything catered to him. I wasn't angry because he was treated well. I was angry because I wasn't treated at all. I didn't want special attention. I didn't want gifts or praise. I just wanted fairness. A simple place in the family where my voice mattered as much as his. But year after year I learned one thing the hard way. In this house, being responsible only meant one thing: being invisible. And slowly, without saying a word, resentment began to grow in me like a shadow I couldn't shake. The breaking point didn't come suddenly. It arrived quietly, like everything else in my life. One afternoon I came home and noticed the house felt different. Furniture had been moved. Doors were open. People were talking. Something was going on. I walked down the hallway and saw my parents and my brother standing together, discussing something with excited voices. I stepped closer, trying to understand. That's when I noticed it. My brother's stuff was being carried into another room. My room? Well, it was worse. They were giving him the biggest room in the house. The one I had been sharing ideas about for months. The one I wanted to turn into my study space. The one they always told me, maybe later. Now suddenly it was his. No conversation. No explanation. No inclusion. I asked, "When did we decide this?" My mom barely looked at me. "Today. Your brother needs more space." I said, "But I've been asking for that room for years." My dad cut in, tired and irritated. "Don't start. You don't need it." "He does." Those 4 words, "you don't need it," felt like a slap. I stood there watching them plan everything around him like I didn't exist. Even my brother avoided eye contact, but he didn't refuse the room either. I walked to my own small corner of the house, the same cramped room I'd been stuck in forever, and something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not in anger. Just clearly. It wasn't about the room. It was about how easily they erased me from decisions. How normal it was for everyone to treat me like background noise. And standing there, feeling the same old mix of disappointment and loneliness, I realized something important. If they wouldn't make space for me, I would make my own. And that thought marked the beginning of everything that came next. After that day, something changed inside me. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I didn't even bring it up again. I just went quiet, so quiet that my family probably thought I had accepted everything. But inside I was building a plan they would never see coming. I stopped trying to be included. Instead I began watching. Listening. noticing every small thing that proved how decisions were always made without me. I didn't collect these moments to hold a grudge. I collected them to remind myself why I needed to take control of my own life. Late at night, while everyone slept, I sat on the edge of my bed and searched for answers. I read about renting, buying property, saving plans, legal rights, things I had never cared about before. I learned how ownership worked. I learned how independence actually begins. And slowly I started forming a plan that felt crazy even to me. I began saving every bit of money I could. I stopped spending on things I didn't need. I took extra shifts, side work, anything that brought in more income. No one noticed because no one was paying attention to me anyway. And that was my advantage. I didn't tell friends. I didn't tell relatives. I didn't tell my family. My silence became my shield while my plan became my power. I wasn't trying to beat them. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted my own space, physically and emotionally, somewhere I wouldn't be treated like an afterthought. And step by step, the plan that started as frustration began turning into something real. My plan reached its peak the day I finally decided to take the craziest step of my life. A step no one in my family would ever expect from the quiet, responsible one. While they were busy rearranging the house for my brother, I was preparing to walk into a place of my own. After months of saving, researching, and staying silent, I found a small but decent apartment in my price range. Nothing fancy. Nothing big. But it was mine. A place where no one could tell me what I needed or didn't need. A place where decisions were made by me and no one else. I remember signing the papers with trembling hands. Not from fear but from disbelief. All my life I had been treated like someone who depended on others. Now I was holding the keys to my own space. Independence in the shape of metal and hope. I didn't tell my family right away. I packed quietly. Cleaned my room quietly. Even folded my clothes quietly. The same silence they always ignored was now my strongest tool. When everything was ready, I walked into the living room, placed the keys on the table and said calmly, "I'm moving out." The room froze. My mom stared at me. My dad looked confused. My brother finally looked directly at me. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. They had no idea that while they were choosing favorites, I was choosing myself. And with one move, I changed the entire balance of the house. The moment I said, "I'm moving out," it felt like the entire room stopped breathing. My family had always assumed I would stay quietly in the background, doing what they expected, asking for nothing, accepting everything. So when I stood there with confidence they had never seen in me before, they didn't know how to react. My mom's first response was disbelief. "You're joking, right? Where will you even go?" I calmly replied, "I already have a place." My dad's face changed instantly. He wasn't angry, he was stunned. For once, he didn't have a quick answer or a dismissive comment. He just stared at me like he was seeing a different person entirely. My brother, the favorite, looked more confused than anyone. Maybe even a little threatened. He asked, "Why didn't you tell us?" I shrugged. "Because no one listens when I talk." Silence. The same silence I had been trapped in for years. But this time it wasn't heavy on me. It was heavy on them. Suddenly everyone wanted to talk. They tried to convince me to wait, to discuss it, to be reasonable. My mom even suggested rearranging the rooms again, as if comfort now mattered because I was finally doing something for myself. But I wasn't doing this to get a better room. I wasn't doing it for attention. I was doing it because they had pushed me into a corner for too long. For the first time they realized something powerful. The person they ignored had become the person they could no longer control. After the shock settled, the real reactions began. And that was when everyone's true colors finally showed. At first, my family tried to act calm as if this was just a phase I would get over. But when they realized I had already signed the papers, paid the deposit, and packed my bags, their behavior shifted fast. My mom's voice softened. She said, "We didn't mean to make you feel left out." But her eyes told a different story. She was scared of losing the person who held the house together quietly. My dad, who always brushed off my feelings, suddenly wanted explanations. "Why would you make such a big decision without talking to us?" I wanted to laugh. They had been making decisions without me my whole life. Instead, I simply said, "Now you know how it feels." My brother stayed silent at first, but later he pulled me aside. "Is this because of the room?" I looked at him and replied, "It's because of everything." For once, he didn't have anything to say. Some of them apologized. Some tried to justify their actions. Some acted like nothing had ever been wrong. But I saw everything clearly now. The favoritism. The excuses. The sudden panic when I chose myself. Their reactions confirmed something important. They liked me more when I was small, quiet, and easy to ignore. But now, standing there with my future in my hands, I realized the truth. I wasn't leaving because I stopped loving them. I was leaving because I finally started loving myself. Moving into my own place didn't just give me new walls and a new key. It shifted the entire balance of power in my family. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't standing in their shadow. I had built something on my own without anyone's approval, and they knew it. Suddenly, the same people who used to ignore my words began calling me for advice. My dad asked how I managed the paperwork. My mom wanted to know about budgeting. Even my brother, who always had everything handed to him, started treating me differently. Careful, almost respectful. It was strange watching them realize that I wasn't the weak, quiet kid they thought I was. When I visited the house again to collect a few more things, I noticed something else. They weren't as loud anymore. They listened when I spoke. They asked what I wanted. Even simple decisions, like where to put a chair or what to cook, suddenly included me. Not because they had changed overnight, but because I had. By choosing myself, I had forced them to see me. The best part? I didn't need validation from them anymore. I wasn't waiting for fairness or approval. I had my own space, my own choices, my own life. And knowing that gave me a peace I had never felt growing up in that house. I walked away with one clear understanding. Respect doesn't come from being the favorite. It comes from finally choosing your worth. Even when your own family never did. Standing in my own home for the first time, I finally understood something I had missed my whole life. All those years of being the quiet one, the responsible one, the ignored one, they weren't wasted. They taught me how to observe, how to think, how to move without making noise. My family thought my silence meant weakness, but really, it was teaching me how to be smart. Growing up, I kept waiting for things to become fair. I kept hoping someone would notice how much I did, how hard I tried, how much space I deserved. But the truth hit me the day they handed the best room to my brother without a second thought. I couldn't make them value me. But I could value myself. My crazy move wasn't about proving a point. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even anger. It was simply the first time I stopped asking for a place in their house, and built my own. When my family saw what I did, they were shocked. Maybe even scared. But I didn't do it to scare them. I did it because staying in a home where I felt invisible was hurting me more than leaving ever could. Now when I look back, I don't feel bitterness. I feel proud. I finally chose myself. I finally created a life where my voice mattered, even if it was only to me. They taught me to be quiet. But life taught me something stronger. Silence is powerful when you use it to rise.